I want to talk about Kamala real quick because I think a lot of us are feeling like hopeful about Kamala becoming the president. Like I think that that is something that a lot of us are feeling good about, especially with her bringing on Tim Walz. I like Tim Walz. He seems really cool. We've made some content praising him and talking about how much better it will be for the country if Kamala gets in rather than Trump. I mean, that's like very clear. And it feels at this moment like the Democrats just have to be not Trump and then they'll just win. Or like that's what they're banking on. Because I think at this point, the Democratic Party, like we don't have a platform right now. I haven't seen one. If someone wants to link in chat and provide one, that's great. But I don't think we actually have received a party platform yet. This is like the statement of what you intend to accomplish. We've been hearing speeches and, declarations at the DNC. And, a lot of people are kind of disappointed in the quality of the promises being made at the DNC. And I haven't refreshed on any of that stuff really because I was just kind of like, whatever, the DNC. Okay, there's probably a lot of hullabaloo and a lot of copyrighted music. But yeah, we would like to see a platform. Wouldn't that be great? And it just seems like we're not going to get one. And I kind of wanted to highlight a couple of posts that I saw about Kamala and like how she has shifted on some of these things. So back in 2018, Kamala was gearing up. She was one of the choices back when we did the last Democratic primary, when Biden won back in the day. So we had all these Democrats making all these promises, making all these declarations. And so back in 2018, Kamala was saying, "Hey, I'll say it again. Trump's border wall is a waste of money. We should be using that money for infrastructure, Medicare for all, or tuition-free college." Right? And this seems like a pretty standard Democrat thing. Like, okay, yeah, we're criticizing Trump's border wall and we're saying let's spend this money on infrastructure, like let's build the roads, let's do Medicare for all. Medicare for all was pretty popular back during the 2020 primary season in a way that it just isn't now. There's like no conversation happening around Medicare for all. And before we started the segment, we were complaining about insurance and how it's a scam and everything. Like the concept of Medicare for all is just that there is a public insurance option that everybody can access. Like, I guess the assumption there is like, as long as your employer doesn't provide some form of health care, and it should be accessible and it should cover things that you need. There are several states that have like put out more comprehensive Medicare deal where it's like, okay, if you're under a certain income, it's really annoying when this stuff is income based because like, yeah, what if you're a subcontractor and you make really good money? So, but like, it's like you don't make good enough money to just get healthcare at cost, but you make too much money to get health insurance. Like, this country really underserves the middle class in that way, or like people who are just verging into the middle class. It's kind of a nightmare, TBH. But so why? If she was so gung ho for Medicare for all, tuition free college, and infrastructure, why have we not seen any conversation about that? Well, so first of all, there's the criticism of the border, right? This snippet from Axios says if she's elected president, Kamala Harris pledges to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the wall along the southern border, a project which she once opposed and called un-American during the Trump administration. So the Democratic Party is supposed to be like functionally different, like materially, it's supposed to be measurably different from the Republican Party. And yet, Biden has continued the practice of family separation at the borders. There is like this very popular rhetoric, the idea that, well, you can't cross over the border and like get in here illegally. You have to be on American soil in order to claim asylum here, in order to request asylum here. And that doesn't even, the fact that most, quote, illegal immigrants in this country came here by airplane And they originally had a green card and it just has expired. So, like, so many reasons why dedicating resources to a border wall is useless. Oh, and also, we were talking about this in the Discord server the other day, and Byron, thank you for posting links about it, but along the southern border, a huge percentage of that land is private property. So you would have to, like, purchase land via eminent domain and create easements on the property to be able to reach the wall to build it. And huge chunks of that area of the border is straight up desert. So, like, okay, what are we really doing here? Like, what is the point of this? Why would she promise hundreds of millions of dollars to a border wall? And I think her running partner even said, Tim Walz was like, well, if Trump builds a 30-foot wall, I know the first thing I'm going to do is invest in the company that's making a 32-foot tall ladder. You know, like, you can keep building the wall taller and taller. Like, people are going to find a way around. They're going to find a way over. They're going to get on an airplane. It just feels like we're getting more of the same. It feels like people keep promising me that the Democrats are going to be different. The Democrats are going to be better. And, like, okay, I concede that the Democrats are not literal fascists. They're not literally, like, planning on putting trans people in camps. They're putting brown people in facilities where, like, they die in fires and stuff. The breakdown of the land along the border is something like 40% public, 39% private, 5% Native American owned, and the rest kind of unclassified. Yeah. Oh, 36% private. Okay, yeah. So only 40% of the land along the border could they just go in and build a wall or a fence or whatever. And the rest of it, they would have to negotiate with native tribes, or they would have to purchase via eminent domain, or negotiate even with, like, private landowners. Can we build a wall with built-in ladders? Yeah, let's. Mitternacht and I are here to ask you to hit like on the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe. Click the bell if you feel like it. You don't have to, though. Feel free to check out the other links in the description because I sell merch like this cute tank top. I'm running a GoFundMe to try to move 2,000 miles across the country to a place where I have rights. And I have a Patreon he's smashing his face against my face. Democrats won't put trans people in camps. They'll just do nothing while red states go ahead and do it. Yeah. So, like, I will say, yes, I am going to vote for Kamala Harris. I live in Kansas. It's probably not going to matter, but I'm still going to do it because I have more faith that she's going to be a decent president than I have faith that Biden is going to be a decent president. Like, I'm glad that he dropped out because I wasn't going to vote for him. But I will vote for Kamala, and I think that everybody else should too, no matter where you live. Like, even if you live in a state that's usually deep red, because you never know. Like, so many old people who were registered Republican died from the pandemic and are dying from the still ongoing pandemic. But, like, the demographics could have shifted, right? So even if you live in a red state, still vote for the president and, like, also vote down ballot and everything. Local Democrats, I think, are usually better. But even then, you know, you have to, like, thoroughly do your research because lots of people are just registering as Democrats, even though they're actually Republicans. There was that lady whose name I can never remember in South Carolina who ran as a Democrat in a brand new district, and then she turned Republican as soon as she was elected. And then you've got, what's his face, Fetterman, who said he was a progressive Democrat when he was running, and now he's functionally, like, dropped the progressive label, and now he's just a centrist Democrat like the rest of them. So yeah, like, I still think it's important for you to do the research and, like, vote for who you think is going to win and who you would like to win, and, like, hopefully that's Democrats, right? But let's not pretend. Like, stop lecturing me as though they're so much better, because they are still separating families at the border. They're still, like, there's been thousands of, like, lost children in the process of, applying for asylum or whatever. I was just reading this the other day and I didn't save the link to it, but there have been, like, tens of thousands of children who've gone missing in the process of their immigration proceedings. And the government really only becomes aware of this when those children don't show up at their court dates. Like, where are they going? Where'd they come from? Where'd they go? Who the fuck knows? And like, then you get into this, like, I didn't even, obviously this is an entire article that I haven't read, but like Kamala Harris has ditched Medicare for all. There's been no conversation about it. It's something that she apparently cared very deeply about only 5.5 years ago. And yet, and I haven't personally seen any conversation around raising the minimum wage. We know under Biden, like as soon as he got in, they were like, oh, well, there's this appointed position called the Senate parliamentarian, and they say that we can't even have a conversation about writing a bill that would increase the federal minimum wage. So the federal minimum wage hasn't gone up in, 15 years? Something like that. It's $7.25. Like, I live in Kansas. We have a federal minimum wage here, $7.25, and the cost of living is like $14 an hour. And I live in Kansas. It's cheap as hell to live here. Well, except the taxes. Like, they absolutely screw us over with the income taxes here. And yet we still somehow don't have robust public services. Like, it's the weirdest thing. I wonder about the internal pressures from the Democratic establishment and how that erodes personal goals and beliefs of people associated with that level of government. Right, yeah, because we all remember AOC came in hot, and now, like people are regularly talking about how disappointed they are in how much she has relaxed on some of the ways that she was trying to push the party further left. It's like, once you get in there, do you just realize that it's actually impossible in this system? Is there something that happens where you just accept that you're never going to make any progress on these things? Dem party should change their color to purple, truly. Democrats don't even use the power when they have it, and they always have an excuse to not use their power to get things done. It needs to be called what it is. It's weaponized incompetence. That's a really interesting way of framing it. I think most of the time when we see weaponized incompetence being framed, it's within this context of like a heterosexual relationship where the man, like the woman asks the man, like, hey, will you take care of the baby, or will you clean the kitchen, or will you put dinner away after, like, will you put the food away after dinner and clean up? And they do stuff like take an entire hot pan off of the stove and put it on the glass shelf in the fridge, and it like cracks and breaks, and like instead of putting it away into like a Tupperware or something, and like they start they start watching the baby, but then they start asking a bunch of questions like well, where's the milk, and like how long do I feed it, and like do I need to like what do I do after? It was like, okay, do you really need me to sit here and really explain this to you step by step? As though you have not had like I have the same books. The books are in our house. You can read the books on how to take care of the baby. So like, yeah, this is the context that you usually see weaponized incompetence is like a man does something poorly, and like somewhere, maybe not consciously, but somewhere subconsciously, it's like, she just won't ask me to do it again if it is more work for her to, because like, yeah, if you're sitting there having to explain to an adult human being like how to do the laundry, at some point you're just gonna be like, well, whatever, I'll just do it. Okay, just get out of my face. It's literally more work to parent you into knowing how to do your own fucking laundry. Interesting anarchist-leaning writing about this type of thing is Means and Ends by Zoe Baker. I'll have to remember that. But yeah, I can kind of see that being, in this case, the Democrats they end up in situations where they have power, and, maybe they don't have both the House and the Senate, but maybe they have the Senate and the presidency. And like that should be enough to get things done. And like, it's not entirely their fault. I guess they have the filibuster or whatever. But there is such a thing as like executive power. The president could just do things, and they just don't. Right? Like they're just like, they're bumbling along like, oh, we can't do anything. Oh, there's an appointed position, Senate parliamentarian, who says that we can't have a conversation about minimum wage. And it's like, we are well past the point at which our ancestors in the past would have taken some retaliatory action right now. Biden's student loan forgiveness could have been done instantly. Instead, he chose a route that Republicans could block via the Supreme Court. Biden could pack the court at any time, but instead Dems talk about an amendment that will never pass because you need 3/4 of the vote. They always have an excuse to not do what their voters want, do what their donors want, and campaign on the same things that they're not going to do the next election cycle. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I was just reading something today that like somewhere around 80% of Democratic voters want a ceasefire. And actually, it wasn't a ceasefire. It was that 80% of questioned voters, Democrats, wanted to stop sending arms to Israel. And it's so, okay, how are you going to do something that 80% of your constituency, not, not the full, but like 80% of your registered Democrat voters do not want you to do because they don't need to listen. Like, because they can just say, well, we're not Trump. You have to vote for us. Otherwise, fascism will happen. Like, okay, but why don't you promise something better? Why don't you promise something different? Why don't you impeach all of these Republicans and all of these judges who are slowly eroding democracy? Why don't you actually do something? Welcome to the website, Pretty Nosferatu. There's something quite sinister in the way the Dem establishment operates behind the scenes to put pressure and turns even the most idealistic to, quote, harm reduction, lesser evil thinking. That's true. And I think one thing that we don't consider sometimes is that, like, politicians, like campaigning as a politician, it's not even really about your platform. It's not even really about what you say to people, because once you get in there, and AOC talked about this soon after she got elected, like 80% of your job is calling donors and being like, hey, would you consider giving us money for the next time I have to run for office? Like, it's a huge part of your job is sucking up to people who will give you money, because you can't win unless you can afford a staff who will, go out, like, I mean, I don't even know. Like, so much of this is done by volunteers too, which is crazy, because I know a lot of volunteers do the phone banking thing. Volunteers do the whole knocking on your door thing. Do we even have like advertisements for politicians anymore? I don't watch TV and I use an ad blocker, so like I don't ever see ads. So it's like, where's the money even going? Dems haven't caught on that the decorum and unwritten rules of yesteryear were thrown out a long time ago. One nice thing about Harris is how much more aggressive she has been and doesn't care as much about hoping reverence for the way things used to be done will carry her the way that Biden did. Clearly, though, it's just a baby step. Right. Gone are the days where you could misspell the word potato and that would disqualify you. Trump says such nasty things to people. Kamala was on like a Jimmy Fallon or something like that not too long ago, and I saw that she was like, oh, if Trump decides to debate me, we'll have a good spirited debate, and it'll be the best man wins. And Jimmy Fallon was like, wait, really? And she was like, no, I would wipe the fucking floor with him. And I'm like, okay, A, that's funny. B, it's true. And it's kind of nice that we're leaving behind the illusion of decorum. Mama predicts if Harris loses the election, they will blame the left. If she wins, they'll say they didn't actually need us and they don't owe us anything. They know that the left is a big enough voting bloc to sway the election and they despise us for it. Right. Yeah, but we're held hostage, is what it feels like. Like, as a leftist, none of my views are represented by any of our people in government, really. Medicare for all? Nope. Tuition-free college? Nope. Federally legalizing cannabis? Nope. Like, not even to speak of a conversation about expropriating the property of, like, major corporations that are buying up all the housing and price jacking us out of that. Or, like, no conversation about price controls at the grocery store. I was just reading something about how the Walmart was considering putting in, instead of the traditional paper tags, putting like a digital tag along the entire store, which could mean that they surge price. Like, if it gets hot outside, they could just price jack the water and the ice cream, which is like insane. No conversation about rent control. Just nothing is going to meaningfully change. except like, yeah, if Trump gets in, things are going to radically change to fascism, and if Kamala gets in, things are going to continue to gradually slide toward fascism. And these things that we want for the good of people, for the good of as many of us as possible, they're just not going to happen. Yeah, if the Dems controlled the House, Senate, and presidency, I doubt that they would get any of this stuff done, because then they can't campaign on it next time. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to complain a bit. And yes, of course, the latter gives us time to fight. I'm not, like, just to clarify, I'm not saying not to vote for Democrats. I'm not trying to say that they would be as bad or worse than the Republicans, you know? Like, I'm not trying to say any of that. I'm just saying that, like, this has been the narrative for as long as I've been aware of politics. I first really became aware of politics, like, during Obama's first, like, when Obama was about to win, basically. Like, Romney, was that Romney that time? Or was it someone else? God, I was a teenager, so I don't remember. Anyway, half my life ago, I started to become aware. And it just feels like this has been the story the entire time. Like, oh, well, we can convince the Democrats to do what we want them to do. Like, but no, we can't. Over the course of, like, the past 15, 20 years, we have not seen the kind of change under Democrats that people keep telling me we can get. We can't at this point, I don't think. So, yeah, at least not under, like, federal Democrats. There's a reason why I'm moving. Romney was the second time. Who was it the first time? Good God, I'm so old. The first time it was Obama versus Hillary, but who was the Republican that time? I don't remember. But, I'm not trying to say that Democrats are not at least marginally better, because I live in Kansas and it's Republican controlled, and they're stripping rights from trans people, and they made a list of trans people and it's on the desk of fucking Chris Kobach. So I'm not trying to say, like, and I'm moving to, it was McCain, right? So I'm moving to, like, Washington or Oregon or something like that. And the reason is because those places locally are safer, and, like, Oregon has guaranteed health care. Again, it's means tested, so, like, my partner and I probably make too much money to get the public health care, but, it's, like, better than being in Kansas. I have the right to use public bathrooms in Washington and Oregon, and there are more trans and queer people up there. So, like, I'm not trying to say that there's no difference at all, but I am saying that on the federal level, I don't think that we're going to see this whole, like, oh, well, yeah, but we can convince the Democrats at the federal level to do what we want. Like, there's no evidence of that. And yeah, there's a difference between safe and safer. Totally fair. Goes back to Rome again. Always. Last guy who tried to be for his people and reduce corruption got stabbed a bunch of times. Might happen again, It really is messed up how people get close to making change and then nothing happens. Yeah. We have to build it locally. That's my personal opinion. I'm going to go make a little homestead and create, like, community connections at the farmer's market. And, like, I feel that that's the only path forward. Yeah, basically, yeah. We need to hold off the federal level of fascism long enough to enact more local and small-scale changes across the country. Yeah. That's basically my opinion. I'm not sure what else we can do, really, at this point. Thank you to the patrons, especially Bo E., Hapax Legomenon Patient Advocate, Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Sarah A., Jack, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, Suzanne Maynard, DZXN, Jamie Jam, Nova, Sojo, Past Null Infinity, Elizabeth Bartell, Jericho, Athiet, Desi Quiche, Celeste, Mr. Atheist, Liam Hodgson, Kevin Young, and Ella V. Nobody.